bigger question, what if the fucking Bloodline leaves with no belts? Like, what if the Bloodline leaves SummerSlam with 0 fucking belts? What if Theory cashes in? What if Jeff Jarrett screws the Usos? What if? That could be it could be a rough night for the Bloodline.
Notorious.
Big it up, big it up.
Clear him up.
Yeah. Go. Yeah. Go.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Casual Wrestling Community Show. I am your host, the Notorious Nerdy D, and I am joined by my co-host of the show, Level Up, Lauren.
What's up, y'all?
Each and every week, we talk about the best and worst of pro wrestling. Whether you're listening on podcast networks or watching on YouTube, make sure to like and leave a comment on this episode. We got another 7 questions for you guys tonight, so let's jump right in. Lauren, what do you have for me? Question number 1.
Okay. Chris Jericho did a podcast where he said his least favorite word that wrestling fans use is the word botch. Why do you think that it's okay for people who have never wrestled professionally to use this word to critique the product and performances?
Pro wrestling is a funny world. Just like the sport of pro wrestling. 'Cause is it a sport even? Like, is it really a sport or is it a performance? But it's a funny word. We treat it like it's a sport. We even talk about it like it's a sport. Mm-hmm. And there's kayfabe and we buy into what they're selling. But the reality is it's not really a sport. These are high level athletes we're dealing with, but it's not really a sport. Wrestling resembles more of a beauty pageant than it does a physical, actual sport. Success in professional wrestling is based more on your popularity than it is actual talent in the ring. Now, some people will debate that, but from my point of view, I think that the more personality you have is the more successful you become, and talent is second to personality as Cesaro, right? I took all the shit for making the Cesaro videos, but the truth is Cesaro, one of the most talented people in pro wrestling, but the personality is not enough to elevate him to be that guy. You're not that guy, right? Mm-hmm. And so you have to, I understand where Chris Jericho's coming from. I understand when Chris Jericho says he doesn't like the word botch. He doesn't like fans criticizing the thing he does. And I actually, when I talk, I try to stay away from criticizing the actual, like, move to move, like, actual talent of being a pro wrestler. When I talk, I'm typically talking from the idea of a fan, from a casual fan standpoint of, like, what I see on TV, the personality, how they resonate to me off of the camera, not necessarily, like, how good they do fake kicks and fake punches and like, fake sleeper holds. To me, that stuff, it's not ever going to look real 100% of the time. That's impossible. When you try to fake punch somebody, you either really punch them and then it causes a problem, right? Or you have to simulate that. And there are times where you, quote unquote, are going to botch something. When you jump off of a rope, when you run up a ladder, when you do these things, mistakes happen. And in pro wrestling where everything is live, you get one shot at it, right? It's not like filming a movie. And if like when Shotzi in Money in the Bank tries to run up the ladder and she slips, in a movie you go, cut, and you do it again. In pro wrestling, that's your one shot. So I understand Chris Jericho's point of view of, like, fans, it's easy to get wrapped up in, like, everything needs to be perfect. But you, as fans, we also have to understand, like, there are other things at play. There's safety of wrestlers, correct? When you do something, you have to look out for the safety. So if you're about to kick someone in the head, right, and you go, oh shit, I'm going to connect and hurt this person, then you do sometimes pull back. Or I saw Damian Priest the other day throw a punch that completely missed. As a casual wrestling fan, it didn't take me out of the moment.
I agree with you.
I don't. So I do understand where Chris Jericho is coming from when he says he hates the word botch. He hates when fans point out individual little problems that happen in a match, because at a certain point in time, when you're watching pro wrestling, you have to come to the understanding, you know it's not real, but you make yourself, you let yourself believe this is a movie, right? And not the CGI in every movie is not perfect. The special effects in every movie is not perfect. The acting in every movie is not perfect. It doesn't necessarily take away from the entire performance. What it is they're just little things that people like to critique. But I also do believe from a casual fan standpoint, and I would say this to Chris Jericho, is that nobody is above criticism. And when you start to believe that the fans who are part of the show, you got to understand, in pro wrestling, the fans are part of the show. They get to have a point of view. They get to have criticism. They get to be a participant in critiquing what's going on. I get maybe they can't do what you do, but they actively come to see what you do.
True.
When I watch wrestling, I do worry more about how someone speaks, how they convey their personality, how I don't love the flips, rolls, acrobats, and things like that. But you have to admit, like, wrestling is a spectator's event.
Yes.
Right? Like, the music, the lights, the pyro.
And once you, like you said before, buy in, then it's so much more enjoyable. Like, one thing I did not like when we went to WrestleMania this past time is, like, the person behind me kept on saying, "Oh, that's botched. That's botched.
I get it.
That's botched." And I was like, dude, shut the fuck up and just enjoy the show.
And I get that's annoying to him, right? And I get that even people like me who criticize things, it's annoying to him. But you also have to understand that like I said, nobody's above being criticized, and wrestling is a spectator sport. Mm-hmm. There's no such thing as pickup pro wrestling. You can't go to the park and ask somebody, "Hey, do you want to play pro wrestling?" Right? Now, I get, like, kids can pretend, but the reality is, like, grown men go to a basketball court and play pickup basketball against each other, and there's a winner and there's a loser, and people leave with certain feelings. You can't play pickup pro wrestling. So the crowd is an active participant in professional wrestling. They are as much a part of the show as the wrestlers are. So they get an opinion.
True.
Because their opinion is what gets you a paycheck. It's not how good you can flip. It's not how good you can fake punch, but it's how over you get with that active participant, right? The crowds honestly determine the winners. Like, if you want, now I get, like, there's the argument that, like, Vince McMahon and Tony Khan, they get to pick the winners. But the reality is, like, when a guy gets over, look at Daniel Bryan around WrestleMania 30, I believe. Just like sometimes they overwhelm even the company and they go, "We got to get behind this guy." And that's the way it's supposed to be, at least, is that the crowd dictates who wins and who loses, and certain guys, good bad guys, good guys. But, like, the crowd elevates your status within the company. So I don't love when these wrestlers come out and go, "Oh, you've never wrestled before, you don't get an opinion." That's not true, right? I played Division I basketball. That doesn't give me more of an opinion on basketball than somebody else. And when somebody else tells me about basketball, I don't unvalidate their opinion because, hey, man, you didn't play as much as I did. That kind of shit doesn't matter, because multiple things, right? There's certain people who just have a mental understanding of certain things that they can't do, right? There are probably people, and I've run into quite a few people on TikTok who are very knowledgeable in the world of wrestling who probably could never wrestle, but they understand the psychology, they understand the movesets more than, I'm casual. I don't understand all that stuff, but we all get to have the opinion. And so even if I don't like to call out the botches, you really can't be mad at people who do, even though it's annoying, right? The person sits behind you doesn't.
And they're entitled to say that.
In their mind, that's the way they see the product, and they're an active participant. And maybe to them, the most important thing they're watching is the, like, do they connect on the fake punch? Do they connect on that drop kick? Those things may be more important. And I'm sure, like, I've heard we go with the IWC stuff and the AEW stuff. Those guys put a lot more weight. AEW fans put a lot more weight on actual, like ones and twos of
They always
pro
say it's
wrestling.
real wrestling.
Well, they put more weight on punches and kicks and how many holds this guy can do and what. Whereas sometimes my critique of AEW is like, there's no personality. These guys aren't big enough. They're not larger than life. So we just view wrestling in two different ways. And to be upset about that, even from Chris Jericho's point of view, like, why does it even resonate with him? My problem is why can't you tune that out? It's real simple. Like, at first, when we first started doing this, the internet bothered me when they say things. Then you get to a point where you go, I don't give a fuck what anybody says anymore. What does it matter? Like, what these people fucking say about me doesn't bother me because, first off, they probably got some stupid shit going on in their life that they need to fucking come at me, or they just don't agree and they don't know how to have a civil conversation. Either one is fine. So I don't understand Chris Jericho needing to go on to podcast. Now, if this is just simply Chris Jericho being kind of the troll that he is and just kind of like shooting the finger back at the fans, I get that. But if it's really bothering him, if words like botch actually bother Chris Jericho, it leads me to believe like you, at a certain point of success, you have to turn it off. You have to, because we critique everything. Like as a society, we critique it. There's literally news channels that are 24 hours of like critiquing politics, critiquing sports. That's what ESPN is, right?
Yeah.
That's what Fox is. That's what CNN, like we're constantly critiquing the news, celebrities, entertainment, right? You watch shit like they talk about what this person wore today.
Yeah.
That's society we live in. So like when people go, oh, you do a podcast where you bitch and complain, that's what people listen to. Mm-hmm. That's what people like. I just feel like if you're going to do this kind of shit, you just have to be respectful and you got to tell the truth when you speak. If you see a botch and you call out a botch, understand that you don't need to call for Shotzi's job because she botched something. Like everybody has a fucked up day. But
I didn't even notice it.
But it's also okay to call it out, I think. You just like people get their feelings hurt. I don't even understand why my opinion fucking matters half the time, but it seems to hold a ton of weight with fucking people. What you got for me? Question number 2.
Okay, so news broke last week that part of the women's roster in WWE were unhappy with the way that they're being booked recently on television. Would there be any benefit at all to an all-women's television show? Or how would you keep the roster motivated?
Well, it's two different questions. I'll break them down separately. So, number one, would there be a bit? I don't know if the public interest is enough for an all women's wrestling show. I would be interested. I think you would be interested, and I think there's a certain audience that would, but I don't know what the viewership is on a show that's entirely made up of women's wrestling.
I actually would not be interested in
Really?
all women's wrestling. No.
Really?
No.
I mean, not even if it was just a part of the bigger company.
No.
Really?
No.
That's interesting.
I like the women's wrestling in spurts. And there's only certain ones that I like. I don't know if they just haven't developed enough characters for me to be that interested in them. But I don't know if they could carry like a complete show on their own, in my opinion.
See, I disagree. I think they could. I mean, let's go. If you're an hour, that's 3-4 matches? I think you've got enough. Because my bigger concern for WWE is not necessarily they need their own show. Mm-hmm. I think the WWE roster, I went on WWE.com, started looking at it. It's so big. And this is AEW's problem too.
Yeah.
This is all professional wrestling companies. They start to hoard wrestlers. It almost feels like they just start hiring people to hire people. I wrote down some numbers here that were real interesting, right? In WWE alone, because that's what I talk about. WWE alone, there's essentially 5 primetime hours of pro wrestling. You get 2.5-ish, depending on the commercials on Monday Night Raw. You get about 1.5 with SmackDown, and then you get whatever main event is, which I still don't know where. Like, I'm not fully sold on who's watching main event, but it's there, and I will lump it into the fact that those are your primetime main roster opportunities to be seen on television as a WWE wrestler. Now, if you go to WWE.com and you look at the roster section, the best I could tell, there's about 50 wrestlers on Monday Night Raw.
Is there really?
There's 50 wrestlers on Monday Night Raw, and there's 40 wrestlers on SmackDown. That's 90 wrestlers that need to fit into 300 minutes a week. So you're definitely going to have somebody who's upset.
Oh,
somebody
yeah.
who doesn't feel like they're getting the time. On Monday Night Raw, there's 12 women.
Okay.
On SmackDown, there's 10 women. So there's about 22 women, and that was not counting Naomi and Sasha Banks, who we don't know for sure what's going on with either one of them. But at best, this is being generous. On Monday Night Raw, women get 3 matches. That's generous, right?
Yeah.
It's usually
like 2
matches and maybe a backstage segment, right? But 3 matches, right? And then on SmackDown, 2 at best. Okay, so that's 5 matches a week.
Yeah.
For the women. And let's say they get 5 minutes each in those matches. That's generous. That's 25 minutes of wrestling a week for 22 people.
Yeah.
For 22 wrestlers and 2 titles. 22 wrestlers, 2 titles, because we're not using the tag team titles right now. I even did math, and there's on average, there's only 12 wrestlers altogether featured on an episode of SmackDown.
Okay.
Because there's like 6 matches.
Yes.
And maybe a few in backstage.
So fantasy book me though. What would a full hour of women's wrestling look like then?
What do you mean? Like
what would be interesting to you? Because honestly, in the women's division, the only things that really interest me right now is Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair.
But 1 hour.
Dana Brooke, I don't even really
1
pay
hour's
attention
4
to
matches,
her.
okay?
Okay.
Give me Shotzi. Give me Raquel Rodriguez. Give me Ronda Rousey. Give me Natalya. Give me Alexa Bliss. Give me Becky Lynch. Give me Bianca Belair. Give me Asuka. That's like 8 people.
Right. I mean, I guess you're right because they
that's not
don't
counting
utilize
people like
them
that
enough. So then maybe that's why I feel like it couldn't happen.
And that doesn't even utilize people like Xia Li, who probably is very talented. We just don't get to see her. Shayna Baszler, who could be a tremendous bad guy. They just don't put her on TV enough.
That's true.
There's enough talent there. You've got Charlotte probably coming back soon. You've got Bayley probably coming back soon. Like you're talking about those Becky, Charlotte.
I retract
Bayley,
my
right.
answer.
I mean, really, when you I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
I think they just need to feature them more and probably need to trim the fat on the men's side of the roster.
Well, I think sometimes there's some matches that are just way too long that don't need to be.
Yeah, especially for television.
Yeah.
Like those matches need to be reserved for premium live events. That's where the meat, like I don't expect a lot of wrestling on television. That is all supposed to be building up to get me excited for like we'll get to this in a little bit, but I'm going to kind of double down on this. It's like the Street Profits and the Usos. Yeah, I'm excited for SummerSlam to see them wrestle again, but I also feel like we've watched them wrestle every week for the last 4 or 5 weeks. Wrestle too, not just interact with each other, but have actual wrestling matches against each other. And so that feels like a lot. Also, like I still can't wrap my head around having a vacant women's tag team title when you have this many.
That
I just
is
rolled
true.
off.
I'll agree with you on that one.
I just rolled off a list of names capable. And I also can't wrap my head around not having a kind of mid-card women's title. I don't get it. Like, they're not, your Beckys, your Baileys, your Charlottes. Those people, Bianca Belair, they are main event. They can hold those big belts. But someone like Liv Morgan, who I've been critical of Liv Morgan, but honestly, the only way for Liv Morgan to learn is put the fucking title on her and let her learn. You either put up or shut up. There's not a title in WWE for women where you go, we could test this and it's not going to ruin them. The spotlight doesn't immediately, when you put the spotlight on Liv, people like me start going, all right, she can't keep cutting that same promo. She's got to do something different. If it's a mid-card title, an intercontinental women's champion of some sorts, there's a lot more. I have a lot more leadway for Gunther. I have a lot more leadway for who's the United States? Bobby Lashley. Even Bobby Lashley. Look, that's a prime example. Bobby's a guy, he is, to me, on the cusp of being a mainstay in the main event, but he's got to just polish up a little bit. So the United States title is perfect for him.
And I think that he has improved a little bit on his mic skills. Honestly,
yes. And the more opportunities he gets, but when you do it as a United States champion, we're more forgiving. When you're the WWE champion and your flaws start to show, people are way more critical of that.
Yes.
All right, what else you got for me?
Okay, so this kind of leads into what you were talking about a minute ago. So as the SummerSlam card is starting to take its final form, it does seem eerily similar to WrestleMania. Many of the wrestling fans have been complaining about repeat matches in WWE. What are your thoughts on using repeats of big-time matches?
All right, so to be fair about SummerSlam, and this is an AEW and WWE problem, I don't know what it is. The injury bug has hit both companies. It happened to whatever the last pay-per-view was for AEW, where they didn't have Daniel Bryan, they didn't have CM Punk, they didn't have a lot of people, right?
Same Door, or did I make that up?
Forbidden Door.
Yeah.
There you go. Same with SummerSlam, right? We thought we were going to get Roman Reigns and Randy Orton, which would have been completely different. I think that the Brock Lesnar thing came because Vince McMahon hit a fucking panic button and said, I'm going to need a big name to come in. You know, I don't think they had enough faith in Riddle to do it. So they said, all right, we're going to bring Brock Lesnar in. We'll just do this again. From everything I've read, though, not even WWE is happy with this card they're putting out. Like, there are people internally going, we're not happy with this. Like, how we got to this, we're not happy with this. And that's scary because I don't love the way WWE has they've done it for a while now, but they build towards two shows. That's what they're doing. They build towards WrestleMania and they build towards SummerSlam.
Okay.
And so they're constantly trying to take that one big match and go, we'll stick that at WrestleMania or we'll stick it at SummerSlam. And then this is what happens. When you get these injuries, you're not able to fill in the card exactly where you want to. I wish they would just let the premium live events just kind of grow organically. Let Roman and Brock fight at whatever, and then at Clash of the Castle, let Drew and Roman fight, and at Survivor Series, let Roman fight Seth Rollins, and always let everything feel big. The problem with trying to make certain events feel more spectacular than others is that the others get kind of pushed to the side, and there's no value in those events anymore. I get having WrestleMania. You have to have the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But SummerSlam doesn't need to be this thing that we build towards. Now, you can always put together a really good card with whatever's going on, but you don't need to build an entire, like, everything post WrestleMania feels like it's been building to this moment. And then we look at the card and we go, it's Brock and Roman again.
Yeah.
It's Becky and Bianca again. And I'm not going to go as far as to complain because I enjoy Brock and Roman. I think I'll enjoy that. It's the same thing again. I get it, but I'll enjoy it. Becky and Bianca possibly had second best match at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
At least night one. So I'm not going to complain about that. What I will complain about is the build up to these things, right? Because for WrestleMania, we had like 6 months of Becky and Bianca going at each other. And now for the last 3 months, we've had Bianca basically fight nobody. And all of a sudden, Becky shows back up. And we're supposed to do this again. I'm hoping Bayley shows up or Charlotte shows up. Something to throw a wrench in this, right? Mm-hmm. You look farther down the card. It looks just like WrestleMania, right? Pat McAfee. No complaints there. He'll steal the fucking show. He'll be fucking great. But it's like...
Seen it?
We've seen it. It's not as big of a surprise this time. And you're definitely in that match not going to have Vince McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin come out.
True.
So
we had talked about that, like, he's going to have a lot to prove this time.
He set the bar so high, and that's not a bad thing. Like, I'm not saying that as a negative. Pat McAfee set the bar so high for himself. You go, if he can fucking eclipse that, which I think he can. Mm-hmm. If there's anybody who can do it, I think he can. But he set the bar so fucking high that sometimes it's even unrealistic to believe that he should do that again. But that's the expectation, right?
Yes, definitely.
Logan Paul's back.
I'm excited for that.
I am too, but it's a lot of the same. Sure. These are all names that were at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean, talking about it, I literally do feel like it's baby WrestleMania.
To me, it's almost more important, or not to, but is it more important? I guess the question is it more important to put the best matches on a premium live event, or is it more important to feature certain up and coming talent? And it's a hard question to answer because SummerSlam is supposed to be that big event. It's a stadium show. Everybody's coming. So do you just take all your best wrestlers, throw them in there? It doesn't matter if they fought each other before. Or do you need to put up and coming wrestlers like they're kind of doing with Liv Morgan and Ronda Rousey, even though I don't know, that's not the pairing I would have done either. There is an issue with like rinse and repeat with WWE. It's definitely, it exists. The other thing though, I would ask a question is that I don't know this information. What is the turnover of WWE fans? So how many people from WrestleMania carry over? Like I get there are hardcore fans.
True.
And I think we fall in the middle of this. I'd say we're still casual, but we follow WWE.
Yeah.
But how many people fall off after WrestleMania and how many new people come in? So how many people are watching SummerSlam that didn't watch WrestleMania? So Brock, this goes with Craig and Sarah, right? They didn't watch WrestleMania. So Brock and Roman is a huge fucking deal to them because they've never seen it before.
Yes.
So that's my question is how many people, what's the turnover in fans? Anybody who's been watching for the last 3 years goes, oh, fuck, we're doing Brock and Roman again. But anybody who just started watching maybe 2 months ago goes, these are the two guys that are supposed to be the biggest in this business and they're going to fight each other? I don't know.
That would be an interesting question to find the answer to.
I heard the podcast show on TikTok, we're friends with them on TikTok, the Putting You Over show on Twitch, and he came out and said that he thinks Pat McAfee and Logan Paul are the biggest stars in WWE. 100% agree. I mean, I 100% agree with that. And I understand Roman and Brock. They're the biggest wrestlers. But I think like just as far as people who come in with built-in fan bases and a level of an excitement, those guys have to be on this show. So there isn't like, there's a lot on those guys' shoulders to perform because when you look at the card, like when you look at the entire card from top to bottom, those guys are taking up 2 slots on a major premium live event and they have to perform.
Yeah.
Both of those guys have to perform. Like Logan Paul.
I mean, it's a big deal.
Logan Paul, he can't go out there and then like he signed a contract. He can't go shit the bed.
True. That's true.
Last question that I kind of ask myself is if you're comparing this to WrestleMania, because that's kind of what they've done. They've set us up. Is Riddle and Rollins going to be as good as Cody and Rollins? Like with the whole suspense of Cody showing up and things like that, can Riddle and Rollins live up to that? I think so. I think both of those guys are talented enough to actually
they'll put on a good show.
They'll put on a hell of a match.
A different feeling. My
whole argument though with SummerSlam is just a bit of piss poor buildup. They've done a shit job of like, if you had this 3 months to build up to this, why did some of this shit just come together? Like, I think they announced Rollins and Riddle like a week ago.
Yeah.
Why not get into that sooner and let them go at each other? I mean, even like having KO and
do you think that they really had it planned out, or this was just kind of like a last
because if you remember, I was talking about the rumblings of Riddle and Rollins for at least a month. They've known that was the door. Where else were you going to go? That had to be where they were going.
Yeah.
All right, what else you got for me?
Okay, so the Street Profits and the Usos continue to put on amazing matches every time they step into the ring. What was the point of having Jeff Jarrett announced as the guest referee? I
don't fucking know. Like I saw you write this question. I don't know. I mean, is it for media attention? Nashville media attention? I guess certain wrestling fans.
I had to Google who Jeff Jarrett was. It's probably before my time.
It's a kind of an attitude era guy. He was a country singer. He feuded with the big boys. He used to hit people in the head with guitars. And that's another thing I say. I'm not asking the question, what does he need to be in this match? I'm asking the question, who the fuck is getting hit with the guitar? Because somebody's getting hit with the guitar.
Yeah, I mean, so you can't do it.
Is it an Uso? Is it a Street Profit? Is it MJ? Not MJ. MVP? Is he going to come out and get involved and get hit with a guitar? Somebody's getting hit with a guitar. Did this match really need a gimmick? No. But it's like I said earlier. We've seen this match 5 times in the last 6 weeks. Over and some iteration.
I literally
right?
feel like every single week is them.
Sometimes they throw R-Truth into it. Sometimes they throw Omos into it. Sometimes they get MVP out there. But we've seen this same fucking rotation for the last probably 2 months. So did it need a gimmick? No. Is a gimmick welcome? Sure. Whatever. He's going to hit somebody with a fucking guitar. It's going to get a pop. People will go nuts. Bigger question is, does Jeff Jarrett start to spell trouble for the Usos? Because that is a way, well, because he's special guest referee, and I'm assuming, well, he does some bad guy work. Jeff Jarrett does do some bad guy work, but it just feels like he could turn on the Usos and cost them the belts. That's a good way to transition out. My bigger question, what if the fucking Bloodline leaves with no belts? What if the Bloodline leaves SummerSlam with 0 fucking belts? What if Theory cashes in? What if Jeff Jarrett screws the Usos? What if? That could be a rough night for the Bloodline.
That would be crazy.
If all of this shit comes to be.
It might be a little bit sad.
Question for you. Mm-hmm. Has Angelo Dawkins closed your perceived gap of skill between him and Montez Ford?
Yes, he's very, so he's surprised me lately. I remember watching in the beginning when the Street Profits would come on, and this was pre-WrestleMania because I didn't like them then. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, unfortunately, until we actually met them in person and got to see who they were that then I became interested in them. But I still was like, hey, what does this guy really do, Dustin? And you're like, well, he's a supportive character to him. He's this and that. But within these past couple of weeks, I've really seen what he's capable of. And I'll have to say, I'm impressed.
Same for
me. When he fucking did the flip off the top ropes, I looked at you and I was like, what the fuck?
I feel like this is the prime example of people starting to chatter. People starting to go, Montez needs, and biggest, I do it all the time. Montez needs to be a singles, and fucking Angelo Dawkins said, hey, hold my red cup. Mm-hmm. Hold my red cup, because I'm about to show everybody that the talent difference, it's not as big as you guys. It's still there. Mm-hmm. It's still there, but it's not as big as you guys have made it fucking seem. He's raised his intensity up, which has made him seem monstrous because he's a big dude.
So do you think that Angelo allowed Montez to kind of take that leading role?
No, I think he was complacent.
Okay.
I think he was complacent. Not even complacent. I think he was excited to be there. He looks like a guy who might have been happy to be there and all of a sudden goes, hey, man, I'm fucking good at this. Mm-hmm. I'm good at this. And I'm going to show everybody I'm good at this. And maybe it's opportunity, right? Not enough singles matches, not enough times to shine. When you play on a team, and I'm not calling Montez Ford Michael Jordan, but this is just for a hyper-realistic example. But when you play on a team with Michael Jordan, everybody else by design doesn't look as good as Michael Jordan, mm-hmm. right? So if Montez may be the next big thing, he may be the guy eventually, right? Mm-hmm. So that may just dwarf Angelo Dawkins just from being around a star that bright. But in the last couple of weeks, to me, just like you just said, Angelo Dawkins has closed that gap. And I like the Street Profits. I like both of them.
Yeah.
I think both of them are extremely talented in different ways.
I remember his name now.
That's exactly right.
That's a big deal.
That is a big deal for you. You remember his name.
I used to just say, who's that guy with Angelo Dawkins?
Would R-Truth have been a better referee than Jeff Jarrett?
Oh, hell yeah.
Why is R-Truth so underutilized in the WWE?
Amazing.
He's great.
I love him.
He is comedically, he is the best thing in WWE. He should be on every episode of Monday Night Raw in some form or fashion.
He adds a comical side to wrestling that you're like, did that just...
You know what I want? What? I would love a Kevin Owens and R-Truth tag team. They would get fucking R-Truth in on this Elias conspiracy. He would be great. Mm-hmm. If he bought into Kevin Owens shit and was like Kevin Owens hype man, mm-hmm. they would murder. Please, WWE, please team up KO and R-Truth and let this conspiracy thing run wild and just let them fucking make comedy magic. Question 5. Hit me with it.
All right. I had to give you an all right. Okay. So how invested do you think that Logan Paul is in WWE?
So we watched a podcast. Mm-hmm. We watched Impulsive with Gary Vee, where they talked about, Gary Vee told Logan how he thought this was the best move for him in his career. So I think that Logan Paul's at least taking this serious. He sees it as a way to build his brand. Will he be on television every week? I don't think so. I think he's got other things he has to do. He's got podcasts. He's got places he's got to be. So I don't know that he's going to be a weekly feature, but I think 4 or 5 times a year, you're going to see him pop up and get involved in some form or fashion. Bigger question is, can he hold a title? Do you think he could win a belt? Because it's win-win for both sides if Logan Paul wins the belt. If he wins the belt for WWE and he carries that belt around, Logan Paul goes a lot of fucking places. He's in a lot of fucking places that WWE is not with a young group of people. So if he's carrying around, say, a United States championship, an Intercontinental fuck it. If Logan Paul's carrying around a 24/7 championship and he's getting challenged for that belt at other major, like, let's just say he's at some kind of TikTok type event, and R-Truth or somebody shows up and tries to pin him on the red carpet. So Logan Paul, I think, is important to WWE, and I do think that he takes it serious enough, and I do think that they have enough belief in him, and him signing a contract means he was serious enough. I do think Logan Paul, within the next year, wins some title, maybe tag team. Maybe he does win a tag team title belt. The rumors I've heard is that this match coming up, maybe Miz and Ciampa versus AJ Styles and Logan Paul.
That would be interesting.
It would be interesting because it still gives, I don't know enough. Like, if he's been training this entire time, he could be ready for a singles match. But if he's not, it still gives him time to grow and to kind of just get it. That man understands wrestling, though. He did a hell of a job in the WrestleMania match.
Yes, he did. And he cuts great promos, too. So,
and I saw a TikTok with him. He saw himself in the WWE video game, and he kind of lost his shit. And I think that's awesome because I think it shows he may not have been a WWE fan initially, but I think you get into that world. It's kind of like Pat McAfee, right? And you go, oh, this is cool. Like, a lot of people talk shit about pro wrestling until they get into the world of, like, just you get around it and you realize, like, for the most part, wrestling fans are just cool people.
yeah.
They're relaxed. They don't want to fucking fight. They just want to talk and be friendly. And so I think you get around that as like Logan Paul, and he's used to people just fucking hating him. And it looks like, for the most part, wrestling fans have kind of embraced Logan Paul.
Yes.
So I think he probably loves it. We'll probably see him 4 to 5 times a year. Yeah. I don't know. You can't teach his type of charisma. You can't teach that stage presence. It's the thing I keep harping on. You can learn arm bars. You can learn to throw a kick. You can learn to throw a punch. Never the best. He'll never be Cesaro. But sometimes you don't have to be.
No.
Sometimes just your ability to, like, make the crowd feel something is enough to have a solid career. All right, what else you got?
Yes, sir. Okay. So, there's an interview that came out with Britt Baker where she's talking about Thunder Rosa, comparing their rivalry to Stone Cold and The Rock and Trish and Lita. Britt goes on to say basically that every time Thunder Rosa speaks, something stupid comes out of her mouth. Do you side with Thunder Rosa or Britt Baker on this one?
So once I read this article,
I went and fucking Googled
and
it.
I watched the interviews, I thought, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought this was all story. Apparently there's bad blood between them. Apparently Britt Baker does not like Thunder Rosa. That she doesn't believe she's a hard worker or something like that. I can't fucking believe everything I read on the internet, but I dug down a hole. I went down a rabbit hole and tried to find information on this. I watched the interviews. I watched the promos. Just right off the bat, Thunder Rosa is not an interesting champion to me. Not enough to get me to tune into AEW, right? Mm-hmm. Britt Baker was. I was watching 100%. AEW just to see, like, I still will tune into AEW and fast forward to certain people I want to see. Thunder Rosa is not one of those people. It's why I'm not watching a lot of AEW right now, because MJF's gone. Britt Baker was gone. A lot of the people I found interesting were gone. Mm-hmm. Now, Britt's back. I'll probably tune in for that. This is probably another thing that the fucking internet's going to hate me for, in the IWC. Is it okay that I'm not a Thunder Rosa fan, or is this another one of those things where they're all going to fucking come after me and tell me what a fucking idiot I am and I don't know wrestling because you have to like her. She's fucking phenomenal. But I'm not, nothing about Thunder Rosa moves the needle for me. I don't like her.
Amen.
You're with me on that?
I agree with you 100%. I do not like Thunder Rosa. I mean, I don't hate her.
But
I just prefer Britt Baker over her 100%.
Go ahead.
And what I really liked that Britt Baker said was that basically she doesn't compare herself to those people because they're so great, but her character does.
Well, yeah,
My
when she's
character
in
thinks that.
character, of course.
But she basically was saying that, like, in real life, Thunder Rosa shouldn't talk because she just says crazy shit.
But once again, this boils down to, and this is why I say why people get so fucking hurt by the things I say. I've told you what I find important. Personality. How well, charisma. How well you connect. And when you put Britt Baker next to Thunder Rosa, it's not
no
even
comparison
it's not
at
even
all.
close. Now, in the ring together, they've had some fucking amazing matches. I will not discount that at all.
So I have a question in your opinion about Thunder Rosa, right? Do you think that it is her costume that makes her character, or do you think that her personality makes her character?
So this is what the fucking internet's gonna come for me again. Here we go. Journeyman. It's this thing with Journeyman. It's this thing. The IWC loves the people who had the hardest fucking road to get to where they went, right? Thunder Rosa's wrestled in gymnasiums and been in every indie promotion that you could fucking imagine. So we've got to respect her. Cool. I'm all good with that, but I don't have to respect her because, once again, it's not what I find important. So, yes, a little bit. I think that her costume helps. I think her persona helps. I think everything about that. Look, I don't think she's bad. I just don't think she's as good as Britt Baker. And if you want hot takes, I don't right now, to be honest with you. This is real because I've shit on Britt Baker before, but now just kind of taking an overall look at wrestling, I don't know who's better than Britt Baker. In all of women's wrestling,
Oh, really?
Who's better than Britt Baker by leaps and bounds? There are people better. Charlotte's better, but she's not way better. Britt Baker is the best woman wrestler in AEW.
Oh,
Hands
100%,
down.
yes.
Not even close. But if you who's better than her? Charlotte, okay.
Becky Lynch.
Becky's possibly better. Bianca, I think.
You know what? You love
Britt
Bianca.
Baker's better on the microphone than Bianca is.
Yes.
Britt Baker is has better character work than Bianca Belair. Love Bianca Belair. I think in the ring, Bianca Belair is so talented, but it's her ability to work on a microphone. Bailey, I don't think so. I don't think she's better than Britt Baker. They're probably all kind of in that same little hemisphere. Sasha Banks, all those people, they kind of sit on a bubble. Charlotte and Becky, maybe the only two that I'm willing to concede that she's not overall better than. But I know a lot of people hate on Britt Baker, but I can't figure out who's better. You show me hands down all the way around, and don't just tell me wrestling. Tell me character work, wrestling, charisma, personality, ability to cut a promo, ability to be subliminal. Because the sandbag, when she handed her the sandbag, did you understand the joke? You probably didn't get it, did you?
Is that because how do you put out a tornado?
No. See, that's what casual fans. She's saying because she sandbags in matches. Because she doesn't let people pick her up and she doesn't sell for other wrestlers. So it was a direct shot at her ability to wrestle. So, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. It's there are levels to this shit. And Britt Baker's playing on another level.
She's intelligent.
I'm sure she's intelligent. I don't think I've ever questioned her intelligence.
Yeah.
All right, last question of the night. Hit me with it.
Okay. So how much of a change will we see with WWE moving to TV 14 television ratings?
So I think everybody overreacted to this initially, right? We all of a sudden, WWE's going to TV 14. This is going to change the world. Look, man, we're not seeing bra and panty matches. They're not dropping F-bombs. They're not going to move away from their core audience. What we're going to get here is we might get some blood in matches, right? When Brock Lesnar comes out, someone might start bleeding. Possible. Not even sure about that. I think more what's happening here, there's a few things I think that are lining up that taking place. One, Jay Knows Wrestling said something, and I believe this to be 100% true. I don't even know if he was joking because I can't fucking tell when Jay Knows. I have no fucking clue if that man is being serious or joking, but everything he says is fucking great. He said they did it to use to be able to use some of this Vince McMahon stuff in storylines.
Ooh.
What a better way to blur the lines of is this real or isn't this real?
True.
I don't know if they'll do that or not. I don't know. I doubt that's really why they did it. But the fact that they can do that is dirty. That's very Vince McMahon-ish to be able to do that. I think that they're going to take the chains off of their heels a little bit. Their bad guys aren't able to really be bad guys. And you got to be able to say a few things. I also think that there was probably a little bit of pressure from just the TV channels. Guys like Pat McAfee and even Roman Reigns, they were already kind of pushing this line. Pat McAfee drops a bunch
some of the stuff that he says is hilarious.
No, it's great, but it's not PG. A lot of stuff Pat McAfee says is not talking about the cock. Yeah,
no, the cock.
That's not PG. So I think certain people had already kind of pushed them and showed their hand, and I think that, to be honest, Pat McAfee's probably a big reason some of this happened because he did some of this without asking, and they kind of looked around and they went, nobody's mad. Like, nobody's upset at the things he's saying.
Yeah, I mean, the girl's already half naked. Who cares? What, you see some more titties? I don't think Natalia could pop out any more of her titty without a nipple popping out.
So you want my wild conspiracy theory?
Yeah.
This was done for MJF. MJF needs the company to be TV-14 to be a good bad guy. And if they are really believing that we are getting closer and closer to January 2022, and guess who has not popped up on AEW again? MJF. And I know they say he's waiting for CM Punk, but MJF goes, oh wait, they're TV-14 too now. I can say the same things, maybe not as, maybe he gets to meet in the middle. I can still be a bad guy. I can't go as far as I do in AEW. I think Tony Khan's got to be the guy shitting his pants when he saw this and going, I think they're making a move for MJF. I really think WWE goes, let's start aligning ourselves to do this. But other wrestlers are going to benefit from this as well. Guys like Edge. Edge has been known to kind of be a cutting edge person. No pun intended. KO is going to fucking eat this up. When KO can just be a little bit dirty, like a little bit rough, a little bit nasty, cuss a little bit, I think he'll be great. Rhea Ripley seems like somebody who will benefit from TV-14. Her pin kind of pushes the boundaries. The way she kind of like grinds up on people when she's pinning them. Have you noticed that?
I don't think I realized that at all.
Watch it. It's happening.
Those are those subtle things that just go whoop.
Cody Rhodes is somebody who loves blood. He's and fire and burned and stuff like that. That's all TV-14 shit. That shit he can't do in WWE that all of a sudden he can do. So all of a sudden Cody will be bleeding all over the place. I think The Miz is somebody who I think if the reins are let off of The Miz, he could be a good bad guy. Yeah. Then you got Natalia. Natalia's out here on fucking Instagram.
Ready.
She's already TV-14. She may be fucking rated R. Yeah. Already. I mean, she's out here just letting it all fucking hang out. So I think she's probably elated. And then someone like Carmella. Carmella will benefit from this because she is the closest thing to like an attitude era female we have in WWE. She, what'd she say this last time? I got the best ass and the best moves or some shit like that.
I think so. Something along
that line. So she was already pushing the boundaries there. Yeah, man, but I think it'll be good for wrestling. I don't think it was an overreaction to AEW or anything like that.
It's not that big of a step like between the two.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, you're just going to get more of what you were getting with, like, Pat McAfee and Brock Lesnar. Those two already were pushing the limit. So now all of a sudden, guys like the Usos are allowed to talk like Brock Lesnar does. Roman Reigns is allowed to talk like Drew McIntyre. All those guys, you could just turn their characters up a couple notches, especially the bad guys. But I'm really thinking, come January.
I'm excited.
This was definitely no joke. I know I've said conspiracy theory and I'm joking, but no joke. If I'm MJF and I see this, I really have to go shit. If the money's right, I could do WrestleMania. I get to be my character. I get to do he's got to at least be considering it.
All right. Well, when it happens, we'll come back to July 21st.
That was that the date?
It's the 21st.
You got anything else?
No, I think that's it. SummerSlam's already going to be here.
It's fucking,
we got to make
flies by. Next
calls.
week will be prediction show, right?
Yep. So I can keep my belts, which you never gave me a proper handover of the belts.
So next week we will have a belt ceremony to ceremoniously give you your belt so that the week after you can give it back to me.
Fuck you.
This has been another episode of the CWC Wrestling Podcast. Make sure to tune in every week, either on YouTube or Spotify. Please leave us a comment on this episode. Also, make sure to follow us on TikTok if you don't already. Just search Notorious Nerdy D. As always, I am the Notorious Nerdy D. That is Level Up Lauren, and you can ring the final bell.
Ding, 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 ding.
Notorious.